good afternoon, evening, other times. I hope it's all going well, Cuzzo, because today is the very first episode of What Really Happened. I will be talking about our baseball gods finally allowing opening day to start today, and talk about my background and my media background, as well as why I wanted to start this podcast and have some fun with it. But nonetheless, thank you for joining in. Hopefully we have some fun this very first podcast. We will get to experience this all together because I really wanted to help build this image for you all and build good quality content. So nonetheless, let's get into it, man. Let's have some fun. And here's what really happened. And how's it going, everybody? This is the first episode of What Really Happened, and I'm your host, Carter Hall. Today's a big day, and not just it is a big day just for both the podcast, because it's my very first episode, not just for that, but also it is finally time. It is finally opening day for Major League Baseball, a day for all baseball fans have been waiting for, obviously. They get to finally see their favorite baseball players hopefully go yard. Favorite pitchers finally see what kind of new stuff they've been working on during spring training in the offseason. And also, hopefully, as a Washington Nationals fan, hopefully we can go back and actually reclaim that title that we actually won back in 2019 against those also cheating Houston Astros. Sorry, guys. I probably got heat off that the first minute into this podcast, but nonetheless, I'm just excited for this baseball season to finally be here already. As a big sports fan, baseball has always been one of those favorite sports of mine where it's something I've been watching since I was a little kid with my two older brothers playing, and I also played for a little bit. I was a right fielder. Not the greatest right fielder, but I was a right fielder nonetheless. But growing up, I always loved baseball, watching some of my favorite players play. Obviously, like Michael Young. Michael Young was a former infielder for the Texas Rangers, who I grew up, idolizing. Actually, when I played baseball, I wore number 10 because of Michael Young. I don't know if many people would know that, but I wore number 10 because of Michael Young. He was one of those people that embodied what the Texas Rangers was, and he's one of the people that go down as one of the GOATs, and he is already, but you know what I mean. So, growing up, I got to watch many, games in person from, it's one of those things for me as a bucket list thing where, I think if you're a Major League fan, it's pretty much on everybody's bucket list to make it at least to one game to every stadium and all 30 or so Major League teams. And so far I've knocked a couple off that list. Not all of them, but I'm hopefully getting there. And for me, one team I actually got to watch, I never thought I would, was the Washington Nationals, who's actually one of my favorite teams right now. As I alluded to earlier, I really want them to actually go back and win the World Series because we actually got to win that title, and I never thought in a million years we would win. You would deep down you say, "Oh, this is our year," but the chances of us, they're kind of a newer organization, and through years of just restructuring people and restructuring the organization all of itself, we actually got to help build a dynasty, or not so much a dynasty, but a team that obviously beat another dynasty. In 2019, the Washington Nationals were able to beat the Houston Astros. We actually got to strike out one of the hardest people it is to strike out, and that was Michael Brantley. Steven Strasburg went on to win the MVP. So that was obviously, I remember sitting on the edge of my seat, watching this team, watching Game 7 in 2019, and just clinching, just hopefully we can win, because it felt like we never got past the NLDS ever, even when Bryce Harper, who was one of the star players at the time, was with us, and we never got over that hump, and finally we got to the NLDS after a crazy wild card game against the Milwaukee Brewers, I believe, if I recall. And I remember just everything about that postseason was just exhilarating and exciting to watch because we necessarily didn't have probably had the greatest record to go to the World Series. Our chances were super, super, super like astronomically low, and whatever the opposite of apex is, that was our chances of going to the World Series. But yeah, so we made it to the wild card game. Juan Soto hit a big hit, and the right fielder, ironically, of all positions, um, missed his catch, made an error or something, and made an E9. And before we knew it, we had a couple runs on the board. We were winning up by one, 4-3, I believe, and that's what all it took to get to the NLDS. But as a Washington Nationals fan, it feels like I said we never got past the NLDS, even with Bryce Harper. And this was our first year without Bryce, so I was kind of wondering how we could maybe do it without him. Because Juan Soto, I believe, was one of those people like, oh, he's just another Bryce Harper, or maybe he may not be as good as Bryce. There was always that debate, but he came through. He stepped up when he needed to and got us that big hit that made us, go to the next level, the NLDS against the Dodgers, I believe. And just that NLDS series was just another crazy series where I remember one of the games that sticks out in my head was when Anthony Rendon, our former third baseman, hit a big bomb, and from there, right after that, that's pretty much what ended it. But I remember in the NLDS, well, I forgot what game it was, but people may remember. Um, Juan Soto came up again and hit a big, big homer, back-to-back homer after Anthony Rendon's, and then I just went crazy because like I knew Juan had the capabilities of becoming, coming through in the clutch, and he did big time then, and for sure he put an explanation point on that moment. He capitalized and did everything he was supposed to do in that moment, and we actually went on to win the NLDS and played the NLCS, and we got over that. Like I said, going to the NLCS, like if anything, we made it past over that hump of the NLDS and finally, got to the NLCS and National League Championship Series for people who maybe listen to this and not know what NLDS or DS or CS is, and and for some mysterious reason, I am a 23-year-old and living in Texas, and for some reason, I cannot tell you why I'm a native Texan and living in a small town here in Texas, and for some oddball reason, I became a Washington Nationals fan. I think it's always because, like I said, Bryce Harper fan, he left, and then we ultimately started getting all these other better players for the team to fill Bryce's, role, and obviously Juan Soto was one of those players that I still believe is one of my favorites, and he's actually a left fielder, and he's probably one of the best outfielders, I believe. I'm not just saying that because I'm biased toward the Nationals, but I believe he's one of the best outfielders, I believe, in Major League Baseball, other than Mike Trout and Cody Bellinger. Those are my top three currently players right now are Cody Bellinger, Mike Trout, and Juan Soto. And that's not in that specific order. Just those are my top three goats of outfielders right now. And people are probably going to come back like, what about Mookie Betts or all these other players? They're great and all, but I believe those three, Mike Trout, Juan Soto, and Cody Bellinger, are the three that come to mind right now who emphasize what or epitomize what the outfield should be played like. Cody Bellinger is one of those players who I believe is a true outfielder because he's one of the ones who could play all three outfield positions as well as not just play outfield but play first base as well. He's one of those guys that you think he's such a utility guy. He's a solid hitter. He's a power hitter. Obviously, people know this, but he's a clutch hitter. He does everything, I think, offensively and defensively. And Mike Trout, man, he's an MVP almost every year, it seems like at this moment. But Mike Trout, yeah, he's been playing for feels like ever now, and he just still has the same energy from his rookie year all the way down to even now. How many years he's been in the league, but yeah. So I'm just so happy it's opening day. The Nationals have the first game later this evening, and I'm just so excited to see how it pans out. Because, like I said, we're trying to go back for that championship, baby. We're going back for that title, cuz. And um, yeah, so that's just about a little bit about baseball. Why I'm so excited this opening day, not just for opening day, but it's my first day for this podcast. Like I said, the reason why I wanted to start a podcast is because I'm a digital communication and media major at West Texas A&M University. Hey, go Buffs! I have a minor in communication studies, or getting a minor in communication studies, excuse me. But I am a senior and I am about to graduate, and which is so exciting because I got a year left before I graduate. And honestly, like I said, I'm 23 and I did not know what I was going to do when I got to West Texas A&M University. I legit graduated with the associates in general studies from Emerald College, and that's where I learned. It feels like what I built my foundation for life after high school, and I got to do so much, so much, where I never got to imagine like the typical normal student gets to do. I was appointed. I didn't even go through the whole interview process. I was appointed the historian chair onto the executive board for student government while I was there. I got to go to all these different events like APCA and all these different places in Dallas, Austin, Houston, and help build that gap between the students and the the college. I was help building that bond, help build that bond and do events for everybody. What I had so much fun doing, and when I was told I was going to get appointed that position, I didn't even have to go through the whole interview process. I was actually shocked because I didn't know anybody at that time. I was already, 2 years in at Emerald College. I did not know I was a possible idea that I could be just sworn in, like, hey, Carter, hey, come up, you're just being sworn in kind of thing. And that was a lot of fun because I felt like I got to really grow up that year a little bit more. Not that I hadn't, but just a little bit extra. I got to see stuff that normal other students don't get to, necessarily do. I got to help build my creativity that way. Not just build my creativity with student government, but also build my creativity through writing and photography and videography when I was on staff at the Ranger, which is our Emerald College's at the time, the student paper. I got to take pictures and write, and the last thing I got to do was be a videographer, which is a lot of fun because when I graduated high school back in 2016, the only experience I had in video editing was an iMovie. There's a lot of communications majors right now who are probably just cringing at that. So, but don't get me wrong, I have a lot more experience in Premiere now. But that was something where I got to get out of my comfort zone a lot and the most because, like I said, I had when I was in student government, I had a desk area where I got to work at and do homework. But with my job at the Ranger, I was a paid position, so I actually got to go out and talk to students and go watch these awesome plays where most people don't get to do. I wrote legitimately every kind of story you can think of. I wrote feature stories, critical reviews. I also got to write anything, opinion pieces, everything. So I got to do that my first semester. I was a field reporter, like your typical just reporter reporting the news, and the editor at the time, I guess her and the advisors believed me enough to where they thought I can really step into a role and take my creativity to the next level, and that was become a videographer. And before I knew it, I was helping create these videos that I had a lot of fun doing, and I got to do so much around campus. Everybody who knew me. They all knew, oh, Carter's here to do a story, or Carter's, he's involved with the mass media program at Amarillo College. It's like one of those things where I never thought in a million years I would be able to be that, have that positive identity around me, or at least I took it as a positive, because I got to have so much. Like I said, that creativity factor really came into play, and I had so much fun being able to do so much that I thought I would be able to do, and got to the point where I even got to go out of town and do other conferences along with the Ranger, the newspaper. So I had so much fun being able to do anything and everything. Going, like I said, these conferences where I got to be with these legit people who are experienced in the mass media field, and just learn from them and learn how to build my own brand. Like, take those keys, build my own brand, build a fan base. Hopefully, in this podcast field that I got to do, I get to do for you all who are listening. So that happened the 3 years that I was at Amarillo. Well, actually, the last 2 years of the 3 years I was at Amarillo College, because I eventually graduated in May of 2019, which is one of those things where I think for some students, I was actually so happy that I got to have the time I did at Amarillo College, but I was kind of nervous at the same time, because I didn't know how I was going to do that once I transferred to here to West Texas A&M. And once I did, I had a good friend of mine. She texted me one day. She's actually a teacher at Amarillo College. She actually knows who this is. I'm not going to say her name live on the air because I don't know how she'll feel about that the first podcast in. But she goes, hey, we're going to go meet Dr. Hansen, the department head at West Texas A&M University, for the communications department. And my heart sunk because I didn't know anything about a department head really did at the university level, because the one I had at Amarillo College, she and I were pretty cool, because we had a good connection because the Ranger, but I didn't know who this Dr. Hansen was, and before I knew it, I was just, Dr. Hansen became one of my all-time favorite people here at WT. She later retired, and another good teacher that I liked and who I'm pretty cool with, her name is Dr. Kinsky. She actually stepped up and took over that role. But once I met Dr. Hansen, she really took good care of me, and so did Dr. Kinsky. But Dr. Hansen really enrolled me in one of her classes that I had a lot of fun in, and just that whole process of just crossing over from a community college to a university really allowed me to just continue that growth of creativity and freedom, and let me help get out of my shell a little bit more. And I got to meet so many friends that are in this department and field who are far more creative than I am, but they all have that same passion and drive to be creative and have so much more fun. So yeah, it's one of those things where you come into this campus and you have so much fun, so much to look forward to, because you don't know what you're going to have to do in a good way. Like, you come to learn, but you also come to experience so much. And for me, I got to do, like I said, I'm always willing to grow anywhere that I can. It wasn't until the fall of 2020 where I got to get out of my comfort zone a little bit more, and that was be on the radio here, and that's KWTS 91.1 FM. And when I was told I was going to go on live radio, I panicked. I freaked out because I'd never done anything radio before. The closest thing I ever done was record and pre-record. It was all pre-recorded, so I was never really live on air per se, but I did get to play the music I wanted to on this alternative rock station, and I had so much fun. It's like as if West Texas A&M was like, hey, here's the aux cord, bud, go play whatever you want to, but hey, follow the FCC rules and you'll have fun. And fun, that's all the fun I had. I got to have so much more fun than I ever thought I would, and you get to meet more friends along the way that have that same drive and radio as you do and music you do, and your music taste just grows. And I just love music, so that was a lot of fun for me. So that's kind of how it all started for me, was the radio. And once I started the radio, there was no looking back, because I got to have a lot of fun and channel the fun that I had in radio and create it into a possibility of creating a podcast. And just I took all this time during to research and do so much that I can, and the podcasting, to see what it took and create a little media hustle, if you will, to have fun with this podcast, help build my brand, build my unity, build my image, do everything I can, create a strong fan base behind me. That's all I wanted to do. And yeah, so in the aspect of podcasting, I have a couple role models who I look up to and listen to pretty much every day. And those two role models would be Joe Rogan, obviously, for the way he's so knowledgeable, factual about everything that he does. He's so diverse in his podcast. He has politicians on, comedians, actors, athletes, so many different people that you would necessarily think you would have on. And he's so well read, so diverse with his audiences and guests that he has on. So that's what I want to do with this podcast, which is what I want to embody and carry on into this podcast, or my podcast, and hopefully bring some fun and cool guests for you all on, and have some fun in the process, man. The second role model that I have is Pat McAfee, because he was a former punter for the Indianapolis Colts, for people who don't know. And if you don't know who Pat McAfee is and you've been living under a rock, go YouTube him right now. But yeah, he's one of those people who I still look up to every day. And for as far as like starting your own media show and really building everything, he's a good storyteller, which I really want to help bring on in this podcast. Is what I want to become diverse and be a good storyteller and knowledgeable about everything that I do on this podcast. Those are three main goals that I want to help bring to the audience, to you listeners out there. But yeah, so those have been my biggest role models that helped me in my research of gathering information for starting my own podcast. Yeah, so nonetheless, I want to help build my brand and build my audience and following to the point where all I want to do is create good quality content for you all out there. But yeah, I think for this first episode, I think this is going to be something really fun, really cool. And yeah, I can't wait for, like I said, it's opening day, so I better get home, and I got some really cool games DVR'd, so I'm going to go home and watch that. I actually had to turn Bleacher Report off too, so I won't get any news updates. So nonetheless, I just want to say thank you for tuning into the first episode of What Really Happened. And yeah, so I hope you have a good day. For all you sports fans, I hope you have a good opening day. I hope your team wins. Hope Nationals win today. So let's get this thing started, man. Thanks for listening to What Really Happened. Hey, did you like watching that last episode of What Really Happened? If so, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more content on this channel.